everyone, and welcome to the Erasmus podcast, a podcast where we discuss a wide array of topics related to the development and importance of Erasmus international students and mobility exchange programs. I am your host, Taryn Swartz, a former Erasmus Mundus alumni in Belgium and Spain, joining you live from Johannesburg, South Africa.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Erasmus podcast. I'm your host Taryn Swartz, joining you from Johannesburg, South Africa. So many of you would probably be interested to know what exactly is the Erasmus podcast as well as the Photo Voice program. So the Erasmus Photo Voice project is a project that promotes Erasmus mobility programs to youth through online and on-site workshops, and using photography and photo voice as a lens through which to document social and cultural realities of Erasmus students. And the podcast is an addition to that. So today I have the pleasure of talking to Emmiina Vesalainen, a very good friend of mine from Finland, about our experiences as Erasmus students. We were both Erasmus in Granada, Spain, while Emmiina mostly studied her whole career in Granada, Spain. And yeah, so that was many moons ago. So welcome, Emmiina.
Thank you so much, Taryn. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
It's only a pleasure. So for our guests out there, just a little bit of background on Emmiina. So she is a philologist and a linguist, meaning she kind of studies languages and its origins. And Emmiina could also kind of be considered like a poster child for Erasmus, or what we call a world citizen, a cosmopolitan citizen. So Emmiina, let's get right into it. So I was an Erasmus student in Belgium, and then I went to Granada, Spain, and it literally just opened up a whole new world for me. Can you tell us about your first experience abroad and how it was? Take us back to the beginning.
Wow, oh my God, I really need to go very far, because the first time before I moved to Granada, I was actually in Brazil as an exchange student. So that was my very first time living abroad. And at that time I was 16 years old, so I was really young. And I remember it's just in the beginning, all the details just caught my attention. I would just be, 5 minutes staring at a palm tree or something like that. Just like that. Oh my God, there is a palm tree. So I'm in a place where there's a palm tree. There are no palm trees in Finland. And like for example, now I would just enjoy the beautiful view probably. But all those little details just caught my attention. And later, when I think about the first months or first weeks, I was kind of lonely, but I didn't realize it because I was just so occupied with observing everything and just remembering people's names, for example, because I met a lot of people in the beginning. So the beginning was very exciting, but now when I look back to it, I realize that how young I was, how not experienced I was when it came to traveling, living abroad. So it's actually lovely to see how far I came, starting from that little girl or little teenager in Brazil to be what I do now. So it's I become actually quite nostalgic, I'd say.
Oh wow, yeah, I can imagine it. It's quite a journey, and every time you go to a different place, I guess you just keep on growing or adding to yourself. So you probably, from being that 16-year-old girl to now, oh gosh, I'm jumping from one to the next.
Yeah.
What would you say how has it kind of enriched your life, from being that 16-year-old girl to being now fully fledged in a world career?
Yeah, I would say that it has given me a lot of courage. So I'm not afraid of accepting, for example, when I decided to study in Spain, I was able to do that decision, but I'm sure that if I hadn't been in Brazil, I wouldn't have had what it takes to take that decision. So it has given me a lot of courage, and I somehow trust that the things work out. I don't worry so much anymore, and of course the language it's fantastic. I mean, and I actually feel that I need them all the time. Like people say, okay, now you were in Brazil 1 year in 2005, 2006, then you go back to Finland, you will never use Portuguese again. Now that I think that, when was the last time I used Portuguese? Yesterday. So they still, all those languages, they are in my life, and when I least expect, I need them again. So even if it's not in daily use, but I do need them. And of course, when you learn languages, then how you can communicate with people, it opens a whole new world. So that's also like through all the trips and travels and languages, I've met so many people, and I've got invitations to different to places where if I didn't know the language, I probably wouldn't have got. So that has made my life so rich somehow.
Wow. So for me, Emmiina, so you basically, like, you study languages, and like you've just mentioned, languages has opened so many doors to you. But on another level, why do you think, like, what has studying languages added to your life? Like, what have you learned from other cultures through the language, or just why is it so important to you?
For example, I think that in general we should have around us different kind of people, and of course when we are limited with languages, then I mean, of course language is not the only dimension, but when we are limited, it could be the language or the culture or anything, then we also limit ourselves in very many ways, and we never fully understand other cultures, other religions as well, and sometimes even what is the difference between the religion and culture, because like I believe that I can get along with very different people, and I'm not afraid about it, and also I feel that my family, my parents, they have another perspective of the world as well now through me, if they visit me, and I have friends from different countries, and then they change ideas, they learn, so they have found it very enriching as well. So I think the most important thing is the connection with people, and I seriously do believe that if we studied more languages, and if through language, I mean, of course, studying languages isn't enough. Of course, you need to do something about that. But through languages, you get in contact with other people. I seriously believe that there would be more peace in the world and less wars.
So, Emmiina, so you've lived abroad in so many different cultures, including Tunisia, Palestine, Grenada, Brazil. They're also quite diverse in different parts of the world. So what have you learned from living in so many different countries and cultures?
I actually do think that, for example, if we think about the countries I've been into, like Spain, Tunisia, Palestine, for example, they are all Mediterranean countries, actually, if you think about it. And of course, like through history, there has been a lot of contact between them, people wandering, traveling around, a lot of like conquistadors as well, a lot of commerce between different countries. So somehow I believe that in Mediterranean, nowadays I like to talk about Mediterranean culture. Of course, it's a very broad term, and there are very many different societies, politics in the Mediterranean countries. But I feel that there's like even the same basis for cooking, and so so I actually learned that there are more things in common than that how different the countries are. Of course, societies are different, the habits are different, but after all, human beings very, very similar, and especially in those countries I've been to, I've actually more learned that how similar they are after all. Also the sense of connecting to other people, the sense of time, and this also this love for gatherings and parties and to other people somehow. So I feel that, for example, those aspects are very similar in Spain or in Palestine or in Tunisia. I see a lot of things in common.
Oh wow, that's so wonderful. I mean, for other people, countries seems also different, but then when you get down to the root of it, I guess, like you mentioned, we're kind of also similar. Like we're humans. We
Sure,
all
yeah.
kind of want the same things. So, Emmiina, I wanted to talk about Grenada. So Grenada in itself is such a unique, interesting place. Like, wouldn't you say? I mean, in terms of it having a rich Moorish history, it's kind of close to Morocco, so you can kind of feel its influence in the music and in the buildings and the teterias, the tea houses and the tiles and everyththing. So you can see that like influence all around Grenada. For such a small city, I saw it as quite cosmopolitan itself. So, like, what do you kind of think the rest of Europe can kind of learn from Grenada, from all of this kind of eclectic, multicultural influences?
Yeah, from Granada. Actually, it was the reason why I started studying Arabic was that I ended up in Granada. So I first arrived in Granada, and then there, like I got very curious, like where does this all come from? What happened here 800 years ago, for example? So no, a little bit less. No, 500, 400 years ago. So so yeah, that I would say that I learned the Arabic thanks to Granada, and that's where I started studying it. But also I somehow learned that how little I know. That, for example, in the history classes in Finland, I don't think that we studied profoundly enough. For example, that Spain had been under Arab power for 800 years, and or if they taught it, then that means that I was sleeping in the classroom. But I don't think that I would have slept so long time. So it's also interesting how politics affects how we study history, and what we don't study, or what is hidden. So that is also that is very interesting. That I would say that I understood that too, like how maybe some parts like to try to forget that how much richness being under Arab power for such a long time, but that all those riches that that period brought to Spain, and good things and bad things. So it's that made me think a lot.
Oh wow, that's very interesting, huh? Because like, yeah, that's so true. Sometimes we don't get taught the things in the history books that you only discover when you're actually living in a specific. Oh, excuse me. I too had a bit of the flu, and with everything with COVID, it's like, oh gosh. 2 years, like, so my next question is a little bit like that speaks a little bit to this history and this politics, right? So for 2 years you worked at the embassy of Finland in Tunisia, and you were processing visas and granting and kind of refusing Schengen visas to Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, and Norway. What was this process like for you? I mean, was it kind of a little bit, what made it that you would kind of have to refuse a visa. So like someone like yourself that has gotten quite a lot of opportunities from traveling abroad and living abroad, was it kind of a little bit hard to deny someone a visa? Because ultimately it's kind of like also international relations, and it's not you that, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
It's not you that kind of decides it. But like, what did you learn from that whole process?
Well, the biggest thing that I learned was that how traveling and studying, working in different countries the way I had done is not possible for everyone because of politics and because of all these regulations. So that made me feel, it felt unfair that I could do it just because of the color of my passport, but then someone else couldn't do it. So it was shocking experience, very good experience though as well, to see how the reality is and how all this works. But so no, it wasn't easy, especially in the beginning. But also then, of course, I can't share details of my work, but it also somehow I also learned to understand why the system is like that, why it works like that. So it's not an arbitrary system, but there is a reason behind it.
But like when you think of like the current immigration crisis, especially like people from Africa and Syria that are coming from boatloads to kind of enter Europe, it's kind of a little bit still alarming, right? That there are these kind of issues in our world. So, like, what do you think? Do you think it's possible for us to kind of get to that place of having like a universal passport?
Yeah, of course, at the moment, very difficult, but I want to believe that is possible one day. I really want to believe that, and I think that's what we should we should try and work for every day.
Oh yes, yeah, I totally agree with you. So Emmiina, so when you were abroad, like in Brazil and Tunisia, I'm sure you learned a lot of wonderful skills and you were able to meet different people. Did you ever have any, like, what were some of the challenges perhaps that you experienced from having to like live in a new culture and learn certain different customs?
Yeah, sometimes, for example, in Tunisia, what was difficult for me was sometimes, first how we think in Finland. In Finland, we always, we are really honest, sometimes even too honest, maybe. And that is like our nature. And also because Finland is a country where, for example, women have freedom to do what they want to. And so there's no need to keep secrets because there is more freedom. And when you have freedom, that means that you can be honest what you want to do or what you will do or what you have done. So there's no need to lie. So in Tunisia, there's still a lot of Tunisia is quite modern Arab country, but still when you compare to a country like Finland, there is still a lot of expectations from the society how you should act in different situations, and then so there is a pressure to act certain way or not to act certain way. So for example, I could be maybe in a small house party with my friends, and then at some point some of my local friends would go to toilet to call their mom to say, yes, mom, I'm doing fine. I'm here in my student residence, just about to go to sleep, and then they would just come back to the party. So things like this was very maybe simple example, but these kind of things, these white lies, I wasn't used to them. I wasn't used to them, because in Finland you would be able to tell that, yeah, I'm in a party with my friends. There is nothing wrong with that. But maybe in some families, maybe it wouldn't be well seen that a girl is in a party alone, like alone meaning without the brother or something like that. So these kind of little things, when or maybe in that case, maybe even the mother knows that she's for sure in a party, but she just pretends to not to know, and then in case a neighbor finds out or things like that. So it's very important how things look like sometimes, and sometimes that's more important how things really are. When in Finland it's the contrary. So we want to everyone to see the real side of the things, even if it's not always so good. But we really prefer the reality on compared to the how things look like.
Oh wow, that's very interesting, because in so many societies there is that whole idea of that appearances, just kind of as long as you keep the appearances. But I totally hear what you're saying, that that must have been a bit of a shock for you, coming from more of a maybe more straightforward or country.
Yes,
So
for sure.
I think, and it's quite interesting. I guess in some ways you kind of do want the straightforwardness in some aspects, and in other aspects, I guess sometimes we crave that little bit of sweetening.
Of course, yes.
So it's always, I guess, it's quite interesting. I also kind of experienced similar in Grenada. So Emmiina, so you come from Finland, and I guess maybe for some people out there, they might have a bit of a narrow understanding of Finland as possibly maybe a cold country, that it has some of the highest rates of suicide on earth. But for sure, I'm sure it's not only that. I mean, when I see pictures of the pictures you post of lakes and the beauty that's around it, and your cultures and customs. So could you tell us a little bit more about your country and your culture?
Sure, and I actually want to underline here that even though we have these sad statistics of having a higher suicide rate than in other countries, we have also the statistics of being the happiest country of the world, which might be a little bit contradictory, but I want to maybe go a little bit deep into that. So what means Finnish happiness? It's that it's a Nordic welfare country. We have a very functioning society, and at least in theory, everyone should be equal. Of course, we still have a lot to work on that, but we have like the difference between poor people and rich people in Finland is very small. You don't see many people without housing, for example, but you don't find the luxury cars either. So we are like very so the difference is smaller. But the Finnish happiness is maybe that the things work out, that there is running warm water coming from the tap, and if I need something to get fixed, I call the person who's responsible on that, and that person will take care of it. And this kind of, so we can trust that things work out. Even it could be just like calling to a friend who would promise to do something and will take care of it, or it could be like in the level of the society, of the bureaucracy. And so that is that we have, when we trust that the country works out between us, like around us, I mean, then it gives us more, that leaves us more energy to do what we really want to, was it It could be studying, working, or doing different kind of projects or hobbies, for example. So that is Finnish happiness. Finnish happiness is not dancing in the bus stop under the rain. No, that definitely wouldn't be us. We are actually quite reserved people, and we give everybody their space. We don't approach new people very easily. It takes a little bit time, and we are really friendly. When someone approaches us, we help, we are friendly. But we find it that, for example, if I went to ask someone that, hey, do you need help or something like that, we would consider that interfering someone's personal space in some cases. So that's why we can be a little bit reserved. So when in, for example, Tunisia, Brazil, it would be, or in Spain, it would be the contrary. If I'm lost in the street and someone realizes that, okay, she seems lost, they would come to me and ask, like, hey, if they could help, or if I'm lost. And in Finland, we kind of think that if he doesn't ask for help, then that means he's fine. It's sometimes a good thing, sometimes not so good thing. I also think we should open ourselves up a little bit, even though that's changing. And the climate is really cold here. It's very cold in the winter, but summer can be actually a paradise. It's really beautiful, really green. The weather is nice, it's not too hot, so it's extremely beautiful. And it's a small country. Well, the country is actually quite big, a little bit smaller than Spain, but I think we are 6 million or less than 6 million inhabitants in Finland. So I think that would be, in Spain, I don't even remember how much is it. So, but yeah, it's just like that's one small part. So we have a lot of nature, a lot of space here.
Oh wow! Yeah, it really always looks so beautiful when I see your pictures, Emmiina. That's one place I still need to tick off.
Sure. Sure, you should. And you have your house here, you know that, right?
I know that. That's what makes it like that. So I'm like, oh, this stupid COVID needs to end.
Yes, I do agree. You should.
So Emmiina, I remember when you were part of my PhD study, and I asked you like a question about like going back to Finland after, living in Spain for a year or so, or living in Brazil, or living in Tunisia, and then you go back home, and then you were making a few jokes, like you were saying, oh, my mom thinks I'm too loud, in Finland, but actually I'm too quiet in Spain. So, like, what? So, like, could you talk us through what is it like, the readjusting back to your home country?
It was, well, I must mention that I work within an NGO that helps Arabic-speaking immigrants to integrate Finland. And so the people I work with and also my colleagues, they are from Arabic countries, mostly from Syria, but also from Iraq. And so my circle is very international, and I feel that I can actually, like, I have two sides. I like the quiet, organized function in Finland, but sometimes, I must be honest, it's a little bit boring and a little bit close somehow. So if I didn't have friends from other countries and I was only working in my hometown and speaking Finnish all the time and living the Finnish way all the time, that could be actually boring. But now I think that I have a perfect balance. So when the job can be, there's a lot of job to do. We work with very many people, so sometimes it can be a little bit chaotic. But then I come home when it's really quiet and calm. So I think that's a perfect balance. That's a perfect balance because, of course, from Tunisia, I'm used to. I moved from Tunisia to Finland, So Tunisia was my last destination, let's say like that. And yeah, to get used to that, people are more organized in Finland, less spontaneous. So to get a coffee with my friend, that would maybe mean that if I want to have the coffee next week, I need to already ask about it this week. It's not going to work that, hey, let's have a coffee tonight or tomorrow. So this kind of I've had to grow up back to that, let's say so, a little bit.
Oh wow, that's very interesting. Like, I also just remember coming home back to South Africa after being in Grenada, Spain, and it felt like I, for some reason, had lived on another planet. Like I've come back from an alien planet.
Yeah.
Because now I'm here and I'm trying to tell people, oh, I went to this bar and we went to this club and we did this and we met these people. And like, did you ever feel like possibly like an alien?
I did, yeah, I did, and I sometimes still do, and the things that I miss about Tunisia or about Spain, I need to every now and then I feel the need to talk about it to someone, and luckily I have friends also have lived abroad, so they understand that. So and they understand what I mean. So I think it's also where it's very important to have people around who have had the same experience that you have. It doesn't even matter which country, but if my friends had been in different countries, it doesn't matter because the experience is still the same. So that is the key thing to do, I believe.
Yeah, that's so true. Hey, so Emmiina, tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing as project expert on the Finnish Syrian Friendship Organization. I thought that was quite that sounds very interesting and unique.
Yes, well, because of there are some Arabic-speaking immigrants in Finland, especially those with refugee background. Of course, they come to Finland without knowing the country, without knowing anyone. And there might be, for example, families with small children. So they need a lot of help so that they could find their way here in Finland. Because Finland can be a little bit hard country to live in a way that it's cold and not a lot of people walking around. People are reserved. The bureaucracy is crazy. Even you need to... most of the things function by written documents, and you need to use online resources a lot, and of course not everyone can do that, and of course not everyone speaks Finnish. So we help people in need with those things, and also to help to find a place to study or to work. And we also organize cultural events to also to make the Arabic-speaking immigrants to learn about Finland, and to not to get stuck in their own community, but to get out from that community. And also we try to gather people who are interested in Arabic culture or Arabic cultures, because it's of course not only one culture. So we try to promote that co-living. I'm not sure if that's a proper word, but to make the life easier here in Finland, and so that we could learn from each other.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Emmiina, because like when I was living abroad in Belgium, I noticed, and also when we see in the news and all these articles, there has been so much like let's say a bit of discrimination or Islamophobia, or kind of like with regards to like immigrants or from like that are from Arabic countries and stuff like that. So like this like type of organization that you're running, I think it's so beautiful, and also part of your thesis master's is on the Arab language and immigration studies. So, like, what is the importance of doing this type of work for you?
I'd say that first it's my because I have two passions in my life, I'd say. And one is Finland and making Finland a better place to live. But also, as you have maybe understood, I for example, Arabic culture, I love it. And people, I love them in general. So in this case, I feel that this job is necessary so that we could make the Finland better place to live for everyone. It's for everyone. It's everyone's advantage that the people who come here, they find their place in the society and they feel well here and that they feel welcomed here. It increases the security. It increases the well-being, everything.
Oh wow, that's so beautiful, hey, Emmiina. And I feel like when it comes to like Erasmus, or like it literally like opens up your world perspective, and you learn so much tolerance and learn so much ways of just understanding people from other cultures. So in which ways would you say that like being part of an Erasmus program kind of like motivates you to kind of create a better world for future generations?
No, absolutely. I wouldn't be doing this job if I never did, if I never lived, if I never studied abroad. So that's for sure. So I think that Erasmus program and in general all the exchange programs are really important. We need this communication. We need new people everywhere. We need people who move somehow, or at least have some kind of connection to other countries, to other cultures, to other societies. It's absolutely necessary.
That's so true, Emmiina. And like the way I see you, you're like a type of a bridge between different countries and different cultures. And that's such a beautiful thing to have. So like in addition to being like a bridge, so you love music, you love dancing, you've been a belly dancer, a samba dancer, you've done it all. So, and those of you need to check out this video of Emmiina belly dancing like on national TV. She's like a celebrity. So, and speaking Arabic on top of that. So tell me, Emmiina, what is it about like music, do you think about music that it has the power to kind of bring people together, like whether it's through dance or celebration or different cultures, and especially in the work you're doing now with the Syrian Friendship Organization?
No, absolutely. That's I think there is no culture, society in the world without music, without dance. So that's like very something we need as human beings. And it's also that that communication with dance or music, it doesn't need words, so you can communicate with people through dance, and so I think that is extremely important that we can always find these spaces to share, and also sometimes to have different kinds of music.
No, that is so true. Like music for me is like that universal language. So for example, when I went to Grenada, Spain, I couldn't speak a word of Spanish at first, but I am a musician, and that like literally opened so many doors for me, just to be invited to jam sessions in the Albi scene, and like all I needed to do was play a piano or sing, and kind of just hope to follow the the language. So I would definitely say, yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of that. Yeah, just having that kind of, also it's like a common language. I would say it's like you study languages, and music is like also like that common language that bridges.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Emmiina, before we get to the end, like you have kind of like you've that. Like, what can you get out of this experience from kind of living abroad for someone out there that's never possibly had this opportunity?
I've realized that how people somehow very similar everywhere, and even the sense of humor of people laugh at same things everywhere. Of course, better not to enter the politics or the or the religion, yes, but in general, like, I don't know, someone falls, someone drops something, I don't know, there's the or the funny cat videos. I mean, everyone laughs at them. It's just or watches them or find them cute. So I think it's always. I also believe that it's worth to get to know other people, and we should maybe see more the people around us, and try to always find a chance to communicate with different people. I'm not even say from different cultures, but just for someone that you don't know before, to try to make the connection, and because I'm sure that every human being shares something that could be shared with other people.
Oh, that is so true, hey, Emmiina, because like, I mean, just from virtue of being a human being, you've kind of lived a life and you have experiences to share. And it's so important to kind of, yeah, like you said, even with your neighbors, it doesn't necessarily just mean being someone from another country. There's so much you can learn. So Emmiina, so you are like, do you see yourself as a type of ambassador for your country?
I do see myself an ambassador somehow, and that's why what I try, and that's what I want to be, because I also I want to be part of creating also a positive image of Finland for sure, but in general of Finnish people, and also because people read or hear things that are not true. So maybe to give people a chance to, I try to be approachable so that people can talk to me and ask about anything, and I try to create that environment so that we could see what is true, what is not true, and explain some phenomena as well.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Emmiina, because that's so true. And so, Emmiina, just one last question with regards to your research. So you kind of study a little bit like I read it's like code switching. So
Yeah.
it's like, is it like a certain way of there's a general Tunisian or general Arabic? So are you kind of studying like a certain dialect, or could you explain what the code switching is and how does it relate to kind of acculturating? Because like I feel like that's like next level. So it kind of, you're learning all the nuances of being in a different culture through the language, and that possibly opens other doors for you. So could you talk us through that?
Code switching could be, for example, simply something like, for example, a group of Finnish teenagers talking about something, and they talk about some phenomena that, for example, might have more vocabulary in English. So in the middle of conversation, they might use words of English because that English word might better represent what they actually talk about. So that of course exists in different languages, and because of the French presence in Tunisia in the past, there's a lot of French language in in Tunisian Arabic. So my research, my master's degree, master's project is about that. Research in which occasions the code switching happens in Tunisian Arabic. So that is what I study. But on the other hand, at the moment, my work is mainly with Syrians and with Iraqis. So it's another completely different Arabic dialect that I'm using in my daily life. So it's very different, but very, very interesting to see all those nuances.
Wow, Emmiina, that's so wonderful. Like, in which way, just to end off, so would you say that kind of being an Erasmus has like influenced your career path somehow?
Absolutely. influenced, no, I'd say created it.
Oh wow, it's definitely created it. Now, in which ways, like there was no part, no way that you kind of thought, no, I'm just gonna move away from this. Like, yeah, could you, explain to us?
Yeah, I mean, getting the courage to go to different place, to learn different language, through that meet new people, get access to different kind of music, literature, for example. So absolutely that changes how I look the world. So I would say that thanks to all my exchange student programs, I work what I do now, and for sure what I do in the future. If I do something else someday, we shall see that. But for sure that all is interconnected.
Wow, that is beautiful. Hey, I definitely agree with you. I even feel with my own career path, like it's like I'm carving or creating my own space based on the experiences that I've had and the research I'm doing. So just overall, like it's just a wonderful thing just to have the opportunity to travel abroad. So, Emmiina, any last words of wisdom or advice or anything you'd like to leave us with?
Only that stay open-minded, learn languages or anything, and get to know other people all the time.
Oh wow, those are such beautiful and wise words to end off with. And Emmiina, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me today on the Erasmus podcast. I'm sure that our viewers and our audience members are super excited to have heard your story and your experiences. And our aim is to kind of create more visibility for this program so that more students, especially from Africa, can also have opportunities such as these. So, I feel like this is not the end we've heard from you, Emmiina.
I hope so.
Lots of big things.
Thank you so much. All the best for you.